don't even know what day of the week it is. What is today? What is today? I think it's Friday. That's a sad element to working in retail, and I think a lot of people can probably relate to that, is that I have actually no idea what day of the week it is. Most days I kind of don't know what day of the week it is, but I am headed to work where I work in retail. This is my building behind me with the construction that's only 10 years behind for the 50-year certification. It's like 10 years behind, isn't it?
More than that.
More than that, something like that. But exorbitant maintenance, exorbitant assessments that they come up with at any which way the wind blows, basically. And
a property that's filthy,
dirty. You know, they pay for maintenance staff to clean the halls. There's like dead squished bugs all over the place. There's beer bottles in the parking lot. I'm walking now to see if the beer bottle that I actually showed you like a week or so ago, if it's still here. But yeah, I'm headed now to the mall, to my job in retail. This is all of our stuff, and it has like food throughout the day, so that way I don't have to spend exorbitant cost at the mall, you know, because I work in retail. I can't be paying out you know, $20, $30 during the day each time I go to work.
It'd be $50.
You know, you go to Shake Shack, it comes out to, you know,
$30.
$10 for a sandwich or whatever it ends up being. And you know, obviously you can't do that if you work in retail or just anyone today. So I actually heard one of the superiors at the store talking about that the other day. He said something like, I said something like, are you going home? Are you going out to go eat now? And he said, no, I'm going home to eat some leftovers. I got to be saving money. And it's like, I work in retail, and I'm not making fun of that in the sense of like, I'm pooping on it like I work in retail. I understand that there's nothing wrong with working in retail, but the fact that I work in retail is a consequence of a lot of the things that are wrong with Dade County, as well as of a lot of the things that have been happening in the country over, not only even over the last 4 years, but over probably a decade. So in Dade County, it is a bottle service industry. There's not a lot of job opportunities here. The job opportunities are retail, working at a restaurant, working at a nightclub, that type of stuff. Obviously, the nightclub jobs and even some of the hotel jobs, you could end up getting involved in sketchy things. So if you can get a retail job and be working full-time like I am down the street from where you live, that's considered you made it good. The only thing is that, and again, I'm not pooping on it from this perspective, but I live in Dade County and I've had constant problems since I lived here when it came to employment and jobs. I have a degree. I have a bachelor's degree and I have a master's degree. And I have degrees from pretty decent schools. So I have my bachelor's degree from FIU, and then I went and got a master's degree from the University of Miami. And what I could say about the university system, and it's something that, you know, other conservative content creators and a lot of people have been talking about, is unless you're going to school, and even then it can be challenging, and you have a trade. In other words, they trained you to become a lawyer, an accountant, a nurse, something that maybe you have a chance of getting a job, and it doesn't mean that you will, and it doesn't mean that you'll like it, and it doesn't mean that it'll pay what you think it was going to pay. You know, you're going to kind of be screwed. College has been kind of a scam. And I think that it's a scam in the sense of you're told to do this, you're told to follow A, B, and C, and then your life will work out a certain way. And some of the most successful people have been the people who said, like, screw that, I'm not going, I'm going to make my own path. And I think not only does it keep you complacent, but it also keeps you, not only are students being indoctrinated in the school systems by liberal professors, specifically telling them liberal agenda, but on top of that, the concept of not following your own path, not going for it, not taking chances, is in itself a very liberal doctrine. Follow the march of the path, and that's without even talking about the agenda element. In other words, you had a liberal professor, but follow the path, follow A, follow B, follow C. Never take chances, do this, and you will have things good. And then in reality, things don't work out the way they promised. So, I mean, if I had it to do over with, I sure never would have gotten a master's. I don't know if I would have not gotten the bachelor's, but I wouldn't have gotten the master's. It never produced anything. It was, I think that a lot of times people who get these degrees and masters, and myself included, you are seeking something to give you an ego, and it just never produced anything. And I am now headed to my job in retail because that is all that I have been able to get in Dade County. I've also had a lot of problems in getting a job here in Dade County due to a lot of the consequences of DEI. For a long time, I've had experiences here in Dade County where I went to go interview for a job. I'll give you an example. I went to go interview for a job. It was virtual. That was at FIU, to be involved with helping to organize events on the campus. A very, very entry-level job. I think it was hourly. And you'd say to yourself, well, on paper, maybe it looks better than retail. You're working at a university. And I was interviewed by two women who I don't even know if they had degrees or not. And the interview consisted of them glaring at me through the screen. And they told me, I think, something that they were newer to the country or something like that. They hadn't been here that long. And there was like a long talk about how, like, in a positive way, about how happy they are to be here and the experiences and how they feel so welcome. But you're kind of picking up on a pattern. And the interview consisted about, the questions were, if I were a cake, what kind of cake would you be? And if you're a cheesecake, is a cheesecake a cake or not a cake? This is what went on for about a half an hour. And there was a lot of abuse leading up to that, where they canceled 10 times and all these different things. But I've had a lot of variations of that here in Dade County. It wasn't just this one experience. I've had experiences where you go to interview for the job, or not even get the interview, but just communicating with them via email. Someone who hires for a city, to be a receptionist at the city building, to work at another university, different things like that. And you'll look the person up on LinkedIn. They've never been to college. They've never been to college at all. And if anything, they look down upon people for going to college. And even like some of the questions that were in the initial screening or something like that implied that, these weird ironies. Again, I'm not pooping on people that work in retail. What I'm saying is that DEI has been one of the reasons that I have had difficulty here in South Florida, specifically Dade County, getting any employment, number one, any employment, and then two, employment that matches my education. You are discriminated against here like crazy. And there's a lot of disunity here. And with the DEI, if you have a situation where, for example, someone was hired to be the hiring manager for an organization, a university, whatever it is, and they were hired by DEI, the irony, what's going to happen is then anyone they hire is not only going to be DEI, but they have to be lower than them in qualifications, because now the irony is, not only are they discriminating, but they also cannot hire anyone that's going to outshine them. So it's a continuation of chaos. And it's been frustrating. I'm not the only one who's told stories like this. I also would notice that specifically with UM, because FIU is more of a commuter school. With UM, anyone who went to that school, for the most part, the majority of students, and graduated, would not only leave Dade County, but leave South Florida and either return back to the state they came from or go to another place where they felt that they could build a career and a life for themselves. So now I am off to, number one, run some errands, and then number two, head off to retail land. So we just left the bank to do some errands. People are just not nice here. The bank is in an area of Sunny Isles here, caters to this area of Sunny Isles, and the types of people that come in to these banks are your entrepreneurs. It's not like the concept of like, oh, they don't favor the little person. No, the people in this area are vulgar. It's just the way it is. And every element of living here kind of sucks. And it's just a reminder as you go to your job in retail. And that doesn't mean that I want to be one among the creepers. It just means that the divide here is not normal. And the divide is not even the divide between the rich and the poor. It's a divide between I guess three categories. DEI, that's been able to obtain some sort of job. Creepers, that are the 1%ers here, that are, in quote, entrepreneurs in extracurricular activities. And people who work in retail, And I mean, you got people that work, you know, low-level jobs that are also sketchy, but or aspire, like I said, to be these people. So if you're one of the people that's like, hey, I work in retail, but I want to get the hell out of here, and I don't want to be amongst these types of people, then you need to leave. You're not gonna win a losing battle here. So now we are headed into the mall because it is time to eat something quickly and then go to work. And you know, you're gonna see how I eat. And you know, I know every time I go down the elevator in my building, you know, people look at all our coolers and everything, and I could see them like giving side eyes and stuff like that. It's like, well, I can't afford to eat out in the mall, you know, 2 meals a day in order to get through an 8-hour shift. I can't afford that. You know, it's sad as you recognize everyone's cars here in the mall that works in retail because everyone parks in the same spot. Maybe it's like an OCD, who knows? We've arrived at the mall. We're gonna get out our food now and go eat something before I go into work. Usually my shifts are pretty long, usually like 8-hour shifts. They're tiring. You know, I'll mention this again as the day goes on. I am very grateful to have a job, and I'm very fortunate. I started part-time. I worked my ass off for a good 5-6 months and ended up, due to a number of factors, it wasn't like one thing. It was probably a specific person that worked at the job who mentored me, the need of the job for a certain amount of hours to be worked at the time, and at the time the company having more offerings of this position at that time, and a number of factors that went, and also the vigor of this particular location is a very high-paced, high traffic environment. So there was a number of variables that enabled me to become full-time. So that, it's still not enough, but you know, I acknowledge that there are people in the mall that are literally working 2 jobs and somehow balancing the schedules. So I'm very grateful to have a job. Don't take this in the video like, oh, you're not grateful. It's like, I'm grateful to have a job. I'm grateful to have a consistent income coming in. That was one of the problems that ended up happening with the subbing. Especially when they switched over to Kelly Education from being a paid employee. But I acknowledge certain things that, you know, I have a bachelor's degree, I have a master's degree. I am not working a job that matches having a master's degree, and I'm aware of that. And that is due to a number of issues. Dade County has always been a problem for employment. For a number of reasons, language barriers. If you don't speak Spanish here, you're going to have trouble. A lot of DEI in different hiring capacities here, a lot of disunity. So you may be discriminated against when you go to apply for a job, unfortunately, due to a lot of tendencies of different mindsets. And not being on, in other words, we are all one happy kumbaya, let's sing back and forth and make it a melting pot. No, there's actually a lot of disunity here, and the economy, a lot of reasons. So now I'm gonna go eat. My reality, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's not glamorous. This is an old beat up cooler, other old beat up coolers, and the coolers have different meals in it that I eat along with my dad throughout the day. This is reality. I'm not going to show you some fake crap and be like, this is my life. This is real. And I think the more real I can be, it more inspires other people to be like, here's me being real. I've arrived to eat my lunch before going into work. Now I'm going to take out my little food here. What is this? Hot dog on a piece of bread for you? What is this? Some sort of TV dinner? What is that? No, that's not. What is this? Leftover macaroni and leftover potato. Wow, okay. And a new fresh macaroni for me. This is very good to shove down your face, especially early in the morning when you need to eat something before going into a retail job. I will now consume the orange stuff. So I just got off work and it is 10:51. Technically I was supposed to end at 10:30, but we ran a little late. So I'll show you what time it is. It's 10:51 and I'm getting out now to go home. Dad driving me home. Okay, we are off.
Yes.
So you know, again, like I mentioned in my video, to sum this video up, I am not at all pooping on that I work in retail. I've had, you know, some good experiences here at this job, and I don't intend on leaving this job or anything like that right now, because this is now what I do. But my point in the video was that the concept of college, as I think a lot of conservative commentators have spoken about, I feel a little bit is a scam. The schools are for-profit businesses, a lot of them, especially the private ones. And number one, the liberal indoctrination of, are we like actually stuck here? How do we get out? We're gonna have to go this way, because that's what happens. People hit each other over there. He must have hit each other pretty hard. His car was pretty dented in. How do you hit each other like leaving the mall? Huh? It's crazy. Now we're forced to go this way. Number one, the liberal indoctrination of the professors. Are we allowed to make a U-turn here? Were you allowed to make a U-turn there?
Absolutely.
I don't think you were allowed to make a U-turn there. Were you allowed to make?
Absolutely.
Are you lying?
I'm not lying.
Was there a camera there? This video is not proof of a traffic infraction. But number one, the liberal professors, and two, just the concept of if you follow A, if you follow B, if you follow C, then, you know, this concept of, oh, then you'll have a job and you'll follow the herd. It's like, it is the herd. And a lot of the people who have been the most successful, I'm not saying you should drop out or whatever, but I do feel that they haven't been giving people what they've been promising. And again, the frustration of that I have a master's degree and I work in retail. And it's rough sometimes to digest that. I know that my degree's on paper, as well as sometimes what feels like my knowledge doesn't match what I do. And sometimes it almost feels like if I just told people I did YouTube, that would match more, because at least then you're doing something that's creative. But right now I do have the day job, because YouTube doesn't cover at this time all of my bills. I hope one day it will. But you know, there's also the concept of the DEI and how that has contributed to not a lot of people not being able to get jobs in this country, and a lot of reverse discrimination that has happened here across the country, but a lot here in Dade County too. I know some of the commentators have talked about things like also that the admissions process in colleges has been DEI and, you know, reverse discrimination, but it's affected the jobs. It's affected, you know, if a person who's hired as DEI policies becomes like the hiring manager or superior, then, you know, the domino effect continues. And not only does it continue, but they have to choose people who are possibly then lower in merit than even them, because then they can't outshine their incompetence. So it's rough. It's you know, I'm proud of myself that I work very hard. I mean, it was your father that always had, wasn't it that line, like, there's never a shame in working? That was like your father told you about that. There's never a shame in working a job or working hard. Like, there's never shame in having a job, and that's what you have to tell yourself. Because I'm sure there's others watching this video who also may have felt over the years that you've been kind of robbed in a sense of different things, whether it was a spot in a school or a job, and we're just now hoping that the country can start to recover in a better direction, and also that we're a lot more vocal now on DEI, and that things need to be based on merit, not other factors, and having, you know, things based on merit. And people would say, well, technically Trump was president at a time before, so how was DEI then? You make a good point, but what I'm saying with that is that there have been a lot of issues that have been brewing over the years for a very long time. And it wasn't until things got really bad in this country that now we're starting to be really vocal about these things. So what I'm saying is, it's not that we didn't have problems with DEI during his last administration. It's that I think a lot of things were let go, in the sense of, like, this administration, you're going to see him be a lot more vocal, because I don't think that we were as vocal, obviously, as we could have been back then, and we saw the consequences and how that continued, and now we're being a lot vocal to talk about how we've been affected over the years, if that makes sense. So, you know, as I don't know if I ever pointed out what time it was, but I ate my lunch at 5. I technically ate something before I had my dinner at 5, because I had a break at 5, and then the meal you saw me eat was actually before I went in, I believe, and to work. So now I haven't ate anything from 5 to now 11 o'clock at night going home. By the time I eat something at home, it'll be 11 something. I'd like to try to edit this so that I feel accomplished in my goals, and that the day was not entirely going to work. And that helps kind of break up the mentality. And I go home, and then the other thing is that's a little rough, is it's rough calming down the mind to then go to sleep. That's a little rough. There's no time, obviously, to groom. If I wanted to have taken a shower, then it has to be earlier in the day. And then sometimes I do, I think, what's called affectionately known as cloping, where, in other words, you close, and then you have to be there to open the store and to be part of the opening staff. And I do that once in a while. Thankfully, that's not tomorrow. So, but every once in a while when I do that, basically you don't sleep, because I mean, once a blue moon you sleep if you're that exhausted. But it's very difficult to eat, settle down, and then get, you know, a couple hours of sleep, because you're thinking about waking up. So yeah, I wanted to show you realistic vlogs, because I just can't imagine being one of those creators that creates vlogs and doesn't show you their real life. And I think that that's, number one, so disingenuous, I guess the word is, but also it makes it so that other people have to feel that they have to lie and fake out what their lives really are. And I think that that's just, you know, not right. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed my little vlog, and I will see you again soon in my next video, and bye.